Pacific Rim Uprising is the follow-up to the very successful and surprising Pacific Rim that came out in 2013? Can't really remember what year it came out in, but the point is, this is a sequel to that movie, and it's called Uprising. It's directed by Stephen DeKnight. Stephen DeKnight is a guy that has an extensive history with directing TV shit, most notably from Daredevil. So while he's not Guillermo del Toro from the first movie, this is a guy that has some directing chops. It stars John Boyega, it stars Scott Eastwood, and it stars people. People. So the first movie was about gigantic robots fighting gigantic monsters. It didn't really matter what the rest of the movie was about because that's the only reason you showed up. And guess what? The only reason that you're showing up to this movie is to see gigantic robots fighting gigantic monsters. You know why you're here. In this film, it's been a few years since the Kaiju were eliminated or defeated in the first movie, and so they're recruiting a new generation of Jaeger pilots, and then there's a conspiracy that happens, and then the Kaiju come back, and then boom, there's gigantic robots fighting gigantic monsters. Again, you know why you're here. I actually quite enjoyed the first Pacific Rim movie. I think it was pretty damn good. I don't think it's great or anything like that, but in terms of a fun vehicle of watching gigantic robots and monsters go boom and bam and beat the shit out of each other for 2 hours, I was entertained. I like John Boyega. I like the fact that he was cast in this movie, but really the only reason I'm here is to watch the same shit again and be entertained in the same way. Was I? Well, I sorta. I don't think the execution of this movie was on the level of the first one, but that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy myself watching it. You want to know about it, so I'm here to tell you about it. The monster action in this film is glorious, even in some aspects topping the first movie. Granted, there was not as many monster fights as there were in the first movie. The first movie, I think, had more of a balanced ratio of monster and robot fights. This one, it really concentrates most of that for the third act. That doesn't mean that it wasn't badass and glorious. The CG was surprisingly good, and again, it's really fun seeing robots and monsters throw each other through gigantic buildings. If you're looking for that aspect of the filmmaking, well, they didn't let you down. At least they didn't let me down. The third act is pretty much non-stop violence and action, so it'll have you leaving the theater feeling really good because you just saw some really exciting shit for like 15 to 20 minutes. As far as everything else in the movie, it's a mixed bag, but let's talk about the good stuff. John Boyega, this guy is Captain Charisma. So likable, he's so energetic, and thank God he's using his original British accent for this movie. Woo! He has an infectious energy to him that seems to rub off on his other castmates. Because most of the scenes where he's talking to his other castmates and the other characters in this movie, there's really good chemistry there, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that John Boyega makes people want to like him, and so it must have trickled down to the other actors. There is a girl in this movie that was pretty good. I can't remember her name. It's Camille Kai. She was really good in the movie. She had some spunk, she has some charm to her, and she's a character that I wouldn't mind seeing if they come back for another Pacific Rim movie. I also respect this movie for the ambition that it had. It could have just come back and done the exact same thing that the first movie did, but thankfully it didn't try to do that. A lot of sequels fall into that mistake of, let's just do the same thing we did the first time, except let's make it bigger and more badass. For the most part, they try to go a different way. They try to have a different formula. They try to flesh out the mythology of the Pacific Rim universe, I guess, in different ways, and some of that works, some of it doesn't. But I at least respect the fact that they didn't just say, nah, we're good, we're just going to do the same thing over and over again. I can respect the attempt at greatness, at least. They at least tried. Having said that, you can't give too much credit for a good attempt. I mean, let's just parlay this into a boxing analogy. If I attempt to fight Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match and try to hand him the first L in recorded history, guess what? Would you respect my attempt? Sure, but does that mean that I'm not going to get my ass whooped by Floyd Mayweather? No, I would get crushed. I would get demolished. That's the thing with this movie. They try certain things and they're going for the knockout punch, and then they get knocked out themselves because Floyd Mayweather, aka a better movie, is just jabbing the fuck out of them the entire time. I could make that boxing analogy last for a few more minutes, but I know that I'd probably enjoy it too much, so I'm going to end that here. A lot of the humor in this movie was poorly written. I think a lot of it came off as very forced, and a lot of it came off as, hey, this is a summer blockbuster that doesn't come out in summer, and so we have to go overboard to try to make you laugh even when it's really not that funny. There's this running joke in the movie about John Boyega being handsome or sexy or whatever, and it's said throughout the movie, and so we get it, and it is funny a couple of times. At a certain point, you're just beating me over the head with this joke that's lost its luster like 15 minutes ago. It's kind of like the joke from Hancock. Remember when they're like, call me an asshole one more time, or call me whatever one more time? At a certain point in the movie, that's just not that funny anymore. And it's the same thing with this movie. A lot of the humor was cringe and came off as, hey, we're trying really, really hard to get you to come back for Pacific Rim 3. More of the movie's poor execution also comes from the way it handles its characters. There are a whole bunch of disposable who gives a shits in this movie. I'm not saying the first movie had great characters or anything, but that movie at least stayed in its lane and it knew what it was. This movie, it's almost like it's trying to build for a new generation of Pacific Rim fans and it's trying to recruit a new young team of Jaeger pilots, and yeah, we're going to give them their own skills and their own personalities, and they're going to be the ones you root for in Pacific Rim 3, except that never happens. You never root for these people. You never give a shit about them. There are people that show up in big moments in the movie, particularly in the third act, and they're talking and they're saying important shit, and I'm just kind of like, who are you again? Charlie Day is back as Newt in this film, and him and the other scientists from the first movie are back. And look, they were kind of an annoying tolerance from the first movie. I put up with them. This movie, they're more annoying and irritating as ever. In particularly Charlie Day, they do something with his character that is just... it's really dumb, guys. It's just not believable. You don't buy it. It's really, really stupid. It's hysterically bad. I honestly feel bad for Charlie Day being put in this position, but not as bad as I felt for sitting there watching it. I was solidly entertained by this. It has glorious monster action. John Boyega and the girl are pretty good. I'm gonna squeeze this one into a barely above average rating, and I'm gonna put this movie with the Man of Steel Golden Age film. And so those are my thoughts on Pacific Rim Uprising. Let me know, have you seen it and what you thought about it? And if you have seen the movie, how does it compare to the first film in this franchise, I guess? Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!